Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. We have two great panelists. Let me go from my left, your right, I guess. Aaron Brown. So Aaron has spent 40 years on Wall Street as a trader, a portfolio manager, and head of mortgage securities and risk manager for some of the top financial institutions. For about the last 10 years, he was head of risk management at AQR Capital Management. He's a prolific author. He's written a number of books, including The Poker Face of Wall Street, which won the Business Week, one of the Business Week 10 best books of 2006. Nan Liu is a director at BlackRock AI Labs. Nan focuses on asset strategy, financial engineering, leading efforts in equity finance, capital markets, and prime finance use cases by applying machine learning, quantitative modeling, and optimization. Over the past couple of years, Nan has initiated efforts to apply AI in the fundamental investment process at BlackRock. Very exciting. Nan has hands-on knowledge of quantitative financing and LLM-driven AI development for the investment industry. So let's dive right in. Nan, how's your firm? How is BlackRock currently using AI-based technologies in asset management?
Yeah, I think we, hope I'm on. Yep. There's about a few items. And so when we first started, as everyone, 2 years ago when we learned this, we think it's a new form of technology to NLP processing. So we started with that. Quickly we realized it's not just that we can do automations. You tune the models, you can perform tasks that you normally do. And then you further move on to something more advanced, and actually you can unblock some of the technical barriers because the prompt engineering allowed people to interact with the system much quicker. And then we move on to the reasoning analytics, which is a fundamental research investment BlackRock does. Yeah.
Aaron, what do you see with the firms you work with, the financial firms that you're working with now, in terms of how they're deploying the new AI technologies?
Sure. So I've always been interested in AI. And about 2010, we got serious. We started hiring real PhDs and people with tech company experience, putting real money in projects. And there were 6 areas of projects I've worked on. 3, direct asset management. So identifying signals, managing portfolios, and executing trades. Of those, sort of the first 2 were more or less failures, but executing trades, we had some mild successes. And then in ancillary businesses, we summarizing data, which was a mild success, explaining events, which was kind of a failure, and writing code, which was a home run success. That totally took off. But the overall effort was, I would describe it as disappointing in the sense that we were making the kinds of improvements you got from conventional technology or from just advances in market liquidity. We weren't getting the kind of science fiction promise of AI. And I think that's changed. I think we now see that we have come very close to a tipping point. And the key thing that went wrong was that we couldn't hook the models together. They were all siloed. They all used different techniques. They couldn't talk to each other. And they made gross errors. And if they make gross errors, you have to have a human in between. And the humans filtered out the gross errors, but they also filtered out most of the counterintuitive insights, the real breakthrough kind of thinking. And you didn't get back and forth. So the trading model didn't reflect back to the signal model. Hey, the price for this is soft, or, there's high volume in this. We're getting to a point where the models can all talk to each other. We're getting a lot of progress on filtering out the gross errors without filtering out the important signal. And I think in 5 years, we're going to see AI is entirely, asset management is entirely an AI business. And the idea of letting a human meddle in the process would be like a commercial jet pilot turning off the autopilot and the GPS and going by dead reckoning instead.
So I guess kind of to follow up on that, arguably LLMs now are maybe passing the Turing test. So you're arguing that they can actually come in and do some of the reasoning that humans previously did. Is that
all of it? Yes, I mean, the computers are just much better at this than humans, and they've been held back by this failure to communicate. And if you think of human intelligence being something that emerged from a lot of independent systems for vision, for heart rate regulation, and so on, I think we're seeing that, we're approaching the point where these things will come together, and the AI will, if you're working in asset management, you'll be working for AI.
I think in terms of Turing test, the tuned task as a simple task is very accurate. Like the things like you want to do to identify a piece of a garbage data in your source, which is very hard to do before. Nowadays, our data science can tune the model, reach 99% accuracy. So all the data get much better cleaned, and then therefore downstream signal is much. And there's a lot more tasks that pass. Gen AI is a different one, and but building on top of LLM, there are certain tasks is really, really accurate, which a software engineer take years and they couldn't solve.
So with this vision of fully automated investment and trading operations, what's the role for humans in this?
Well, I compare it to Hollywood studios. So in the golden age of Hollywood, the studios ran everything. They hired the actors, and the directors worked for the studios. But then 70s, 80s, 90s, these actors, the stars, directors started taking over and forming their own production company and running the business, and the studios started working for them. So you still have lots of people making movies who aren't these, stars and directors. You have people running the cameras, people doing the publicity, people writing the scripts, and so on. But the stars are in charge. So AI will run the business, but you still need, you need lawyers, you need business development people, you need people actually running the business. If the AI, say, produces 2% alpha per year, if you have 2% alpha per year, to you, that's worth 2% of your net worth every year, no big deal. But you can build a BlackRock from it worth $150 billion. And the people to build the BlackRock, that's going to be people. But the people to generate the alpha that it all underlies it all, that's going to be machines.
So I'm in the business actually right now is developing AI. And I work with people in the PMs, analysts. So if you think of my role is trying to take a human's brain into the engine. So there's early days, people say, well, if you have AI, you can have read more emails, read more earning script, other things in there, and then what? So you can organize that, present to the people, then people say, well, I'm already busy doing what I'm doing. I can't read what you have. Then you say, well, you can summarize. Then a snippet or other things in there. But you still don't do what they do. So I had a long conversation with our analysts, PM, saying, what you don't have is you don't have 20 or 30 years experience, which a human has. So what I have in my head is a human intelligent engine. When that information coming into the market today, that human will react, self-prompting to other things there. We don't have that in the system. And the public AGI or other things, if they come, they may be able to do that, but that IP is sitting in the firm, sitting with our people. So if you think how we develop this, we certainly use LLM, we hooked up in our system, tune or do other things with our data. But the main thing what we do is we call it, if anyone look up in the current trend, how they develop things, the human become a trainer. So there's things you do your job, but also train your model.
So basically, move that IP
So
into the AI.
So if you're coming new into the job market, right? You used to have take you 10, 20 years to learn skills. If you have this robot already trained with the previous generation's experience, you just need to continue to train within your knowledge by learning what he's doing. That way, basically you're training the AI every day, and the AI is helping you. It's your assistant. You're not actually be displaced by the AI, but you're actually part of this workflow. So the workflow is actually slightly different. You're reasoning past some of the thoughts and how a prompt become a sub-prompt, many prompts. That's very distinguished to every investment portfolio managers.
So related to that, one of the things that maybe differentiates the asset management business from other businesses is we know there's the average alpha out there is 0. And so how do you envision a world where probably most firms, or at least most assets under management, have AI has some role in that? What's going to differentiate the different asset managers in terms of their ability to generate alpha in such a world?
Yeah, I don't agree that alpha is 0. I mean, that's true in a narrow accounting sense. But there's tremendous value in allocating capital more efficiently, in bringing financialization into more markets and things like this. And I think that the real success is not going to be so much competitive. With a zero-sum game, yeah, you'll have winners and losers, but it's hard to get rich that way. I might compare it to poker. I'm a serious professional poker player, and nobody gets rich playing the top poker players in the world. You only do that for publicity, for reputation and things like that. You get rich in all of the other games. I don't think there will be a lot of success in people competing to catch a little bit more alpha out of trading the S&P 500 stocks. But people who can bring these asset management techniques to private markets, to new markets, to things that were not previously traded, to things perhaps people never even thought of trading in crypto, that's where you're going to see the big success.
So you're saying that the various AI-based models will allow you to find games where there's a better chance of winning, kind of find an easy game out there.
Well, that's absolutely true, but I think you're saying, I would say that actually generates true economic value, that makes the economy more productive, that encourages economic growth.
Okay, Nan?
I think alpha is always difficult to come. Everyone has to recognize maybe majority of the fund, what we see, a lot of the passive, majority of the return is beta, I would say. But the alpha is what actually people or clients pay you for. So you have to work very hard to get that. With AI, I think that have a new, I think a level of standard. Everyone getting more data. And the question is, how's your ability to digest that data and to create your own interpretation of that data and put it in the context of the client and the strategy we have.
Yep.
There are a lot of things people talking about Gen AI can hallucinate. I was just in very senior level in BlackRock. There's we divide into fundamental as well as the systematic. There's one manager told me, say, well, I really want you to hallucinate once. Give me some crazy ideas. Because if you think about all the fund managers, everyone can get research report every day. Probably out of 100, if you can get 1 or 2 good alpha ideas, it's very hard to come by. Mm-hmm. If you can have AI give you more ideas, anything like that, even say you hallucinate 90 of them, and there are humans sitting there. They will be able. So the ideas, alpha ideas, is very, very difficult to come. And if you want to compete on that, you have to work very hard with our people and how to generate the RAG, all the other things to control those hallucinating for their use for other places. But for generating alpha, you have to do other things beyond what people are generally talking about, the Gen AI approach on that.
That's interesting. I remember when I was a young faculty member at Chicago, a very senior faculty member talking about another finance professor who's one of the most illustrious finance professors out there said, well, 95% of his ideas are wrong, but that 5% are really, really good. And I guess that's what you're saying. Maybe AI can now help us with issues, with things like this.
Yeah, I'm the one on the side of generating alpha. I know the risk manager would actually talk to me differently. That's why we have different roles. And BlackRock do have a very strict risk control there. But there are different purposes. BlackRock has a side of the business we do active management, and their side of like we serve a client on the information. A lot in business that needs to be very accurate. But we're saying about the 5%, how you distinguish yourself.
Yeah. Let me actually following up on some of the discussion from the previous panel, which was really interesting. One of the things that was talked about is, what's going to differentiate you? And maybe it's the data you have inside your firm. If you can gather better data, the more complete data, that's going to prove a huge advantage when you've got the AI engines to help you think through the uses of that data. Would you mind commenting on that?
Yeah, I think BlackRock has a huge amount of data. I'll go.
Yep.
So a lot of data, I think when I started doing the LLM thing, by the way, I was in AI lab for a long time. The AI lab before 2023 is a different kind of AI lab. People telling me, say, well, because there's so much information, people couldn't actually read that. There's things into your inbox, other you don't read. So our job, the first was trying to make those things available in an organized way to do that. So that's our advantage. But I don't think that's the only advantage because if you look at the AI firms today, a lot of things they can actually do, finding the source is also very, very impressive in my opinion. Yesterday I was I was looking at the cloud and they're tapping into the NVIDIA earning calls. As the earning call going on, last thing, the summarize on the cloud, they actually summarize the earning call points. Very, very impressive kind of thing. So if we're trying to go back to say only on those things, normally the average individual investor won't be able to get. So you have to think of other things in our database that we can get.
Yeah, Aaron, would you like to?
Well, yeah, I think we started out in AI. Again, I'm talking about 2010 or so, thinking, yeah, we just need to pile in more data. But it's the representation of the data that's really the key. And that's the hard work. So you can take financial statements, you could just type in the numbers. You could type in the text of the notes. You could put in the earning call, whatever. But how you represent that would drive the AI. Where I think we've changed the last 2 or 3 years, and where I think the real breakthrough is the machines now know enough that they can train themselves. They can represent data themselves. So we've gotten to that critical mass where now you just feed in the raw data and let the machine decide how to represent it. And that's where the advantage is going to be, the data representation.
Interesting. So following up on that, we've got quite a few students here. If you were going into this world now, what kind of skills would you concentrate on? What do you think is going to be the role of the young people coming into this field, going into asset management with the AI tools? So Aaron and then Nen?
Yeah, well, the first thing is there's a lot of stuff you shouldn't constantly, don't bother learning how to code or improving your coding skills because you're not going to be doing that. Don't bother learning the stuff the AI can do. You do want some general, take a course in Introduction to AI or read AI for Dummies or something, but I don't think...
I've heard of that book.
Okay.
Very good book.
Deep knowledge of AI is not, unless you're going to be a specialist, unless that's your job, but AI is going to be your boss. So learn what your boss likes. And the way you do that is by using AI. If you're not, if you've never used it, if you don't use it to filter your email, if you don't use it for do your homework for you, then you're laughing. But I would, listen, you will learn a lot more using AI to do your homework than you will doing your homework. I'm sorry, but that's because what you're doing when you're doing your homework, you're learning how to do the stuff the AI can do better than you, what's the point? But learning to work with AI, learning how to use it, that's important. When I interview people, I always, what have you used AI for? I don't mean a class project. I mean either a real business idea, a real personal thing. It can be a fairly trivial thing, like I say, filtering your email, doing your shopping for you or something like that. But if you haven't learned how to use AI, you're going to be going to work for a boss from a different culture. And that's always dangerous.
I think everything students learn would be more useful. I think the workplace, at least my experience, actually lying to us what we actually do after we graduate. Majority of the time, if you look at what Wall Street people are doing, they're reading something, writing out something. It's not actually what you want to do. They move around Excel or other things. Those things will be gone. But what you're actually learning the skill-wise, I don't know anyone heard of agentic or other things. I came from building quant model, other things. There's still going to be people building quant models there. It's still going to be there, but it's going to be linked through this LLM reasoning or other things. So all the quant models still going to be there, and there are people is going to get in the field developing on that. What I just said, well, if you're interacting with AI, you're going to put your ideas there, and you're going to train that AI yourself. And so there's a lot more opportunity. You're just not going to do those tedious work. Unfortunately, the previous generation has to do, and we all have to do those things. We hate that, but that actually you're going to get more time to thinking, and your manager will demand your brain more instead of how you execute a task. Because lots of time we're doing things which not qualify, well, you come to the education actually, or you're actually training you to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have time for a couple questions? 5 minutes? Okay, why don't we open it up to questions? There's one down here. I see quite a few hands, actually.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm a professor here at the Columbia Business School. So I saw an article from New York Times, which says which is a study that people test ChatGPT's ability to diagnose patients' disease versus human beings, which find that ChatGPT can do 90% correct, whereas human beings can only do 75%. So far, I hear from the two panelists' discussion, the usage of AI is about data processing, represent the data in a way that kind of get rid of this tedious work. So how do you think about the next step of having AI to make decisions in the financial world? We see that more in other fields, but not so much in finance. So do you think that there's some potential for AI to do a better job than us?
Well, I would say I know a lot more about asset management than medicine, but I would say it's pretty much the same thing. In 5 years, your doctor will be an AI, and the healthcare professionals will still be there, but they will work for the AI. So it won't be your doctor using AI to improve diagnosis. It'll be the AI running things, and the doctor there to, I don't know, tap your knee for a reflex test or something. They'll probably have a machine to do that too. And in terms of finance, I think it is pretty much the same. AI is just better at asset management. I want to say asset management. The previous panel on banking, that was much more conservative. Banking is different. But for the key is in both medicine and asset management, it's pretty easy to measure quality. The stocks go up or your things you pick go up or they go down. Patients die or get better. And that's where AI is going to be king. Banking, much more soft, much more fluid. It's hard to tell what's a good banker.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. That's the thing we're working on right now. You just haven't seen that. And because on the investment, it's a little bit different because you have context, the client, you have a duration of the trade or other things in there. And we don't analyze many of the stuff we're doing that at the portfolio level, and it's not necessary at the single stock level. So that's why you're putting something mainly in which I call it the reasoning of the AI you're talking about, instead of just spit out a classifier kind of things you're just mentioned on the medical side.
Okay, Tanya.
So much. This is wonderful. Aaron, I really liked your response to Ken's question about alpha being zero sum. And you said, look, it's a narrow kind of thought. In fact, AIs can do things like create markets. So have you seen AIs creating or opening up markets? Or do you guys, both of you, see that there will be new markets created by AI? What kind of frictions AIs can remove to, create new markets?
It's more of a sort of gradual moving out. We've seen, in my experience, we get a lot more benefit from AI in the less liquid, less efficient financial domains. So what we're seeing is not that AI is suddenly taking over venture capital and AI has replaced it, venture capitalists, but we're getting a lot more additional alpha in venture capital versus S&P 500 stocks, and more in like emerging market currencies than in developed market currencies. And my belief is that will continue. AI will continue to grow there, and will also move to more and more less and less liquid, more and more, and including, I think crypto is a big field where people are going to trade things that have never been traded before. But no, I can't point you to any market that has been developed and run by AI yet. 5 years.
We
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, I agree.
sorry.
I agree with. All right, I don't know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like we're out of time, Kathleen. Great.
Thank you to our panelists.